record 55 mutual funds were converted into ETFs this year. In 2025, Bank of America expects an additional $3 billion in conversions, and Cerulli Associates expects ETFs to hold more assets than mutual funds by 2026. For more, I want to bring in Todd Rosenbluth, who is the TMX VettaFi Head of Research for this week's ETF report brought to you by Invesco QQQ. Todd, good to have you here in studio.
Great to be here.
Absolutely. Let's talk about this a little bit. We're capping off a record year of ETF inflows. What do you think has really driven that?
So you're right. So $1 trillion has gone into ETFs this year. We've seen demand for actively managed ETFs. We've seen demand for fixed income ETFs. We had the first ever crypto ETFs, Bitcoin ETFs that were quite popular. ETFs are increasingly where advisors and investors are investing, how they're investing. It's the way that their focus is. But you mentioned earlier a number of trends that are happening. Mutual fund to ETF conversions, mutual fund providers that are now launching ETFs in the space. That's a great area to focus on.
Why do you think that's happening?
Well, asset managers are going where the investors are, and we're hearing that advisors, we're seeing the data, but we're seeing that advisors, according to VettaFi, are increasingly turning to ETFs. So we have a firm like Neuberger Berman that has expanded its product lineup. They launched a new product today. They've rolled out a suite of products throughout the year. T. Rowe Price is another firm that's had success bringing some of their best and brightest into the ETF world from the mutual fund world. It's just exciting. This is where investors are focused. It's where the asset managers are focused too.
What can we extrapolate about the flows into ETFs this year to really give us a sense of animal spirits in the market right now?
Well, we're seeing optimism towards equities. We've seen greater bullishness. We at VettaFi hosted an event last week where we asked investors and advisors where they were leaning heading to 2025, and almost 75% were bullish on equities as opposed to bearish on equities. Now, we gave them two choices. The market's up roughly 30%. But we're seeing Vanguard 500, $100 billion alone has gone into that ETF. IVV, second most popular ETF this year. We've seen core S&P 500 products, but you mentioned animal spirits. There's, of course, leveraged ETFs that are tied to single securities. We've seen options-based strategies. It's a great time in the ETF marketplace.
We talk about some of the most overcrowded trades right now in the market, and it has been long Mag 7 to this juncture that continues to hold strong and really outpace. But if you are an investor looking for the broadening to take effect into other sectors and areas of the market, what are the ways to play that from an ETF perspective? So
small caps is a great opportunity for investors to participate. And there's some actively managed products. I was mentioning Neuberger Berman earlier. They have a small and mid-cap product, NBSM, that's new this year, again, bringing some of their best ideas. T. Rowe Price has a ticker TMSL, T-Missile, as I like to say out loud, in terms of saying tickers together. That has been gathering assets. We've seen actively managed small cap ETFs, small and mid cap ETFs start to gain traction. That's a great way to see the market broadening out.
Yeah, absolutely. Just lastly, while we have you here, and you're thinking about some of the generational approaches that we've seen over the course of this year and really flocking to ETFs, and what is anticipated as we get even more new market participants and investors coming on board, how is that anticipated to impact the ETF landscape furthermore?
So newer entrants into the ETF, new entrants being participants that are buying ETFs, they're likely to start with something simple and broadly diversified like the S&P 500, and then gravitate towards something that takes on, that can tilt to their portfolio. So we've seen some thematic-oriented ETFs. Global X has had success this year with some artificial intelligence. ETFs AIQ, we were talking about AI earlier in some of the leading stocks. That's a great way that we're seeing investors tilt their portfolio towards some of the growth parts of the marketplace.
Todd, great to see you. Thanks for joining us in studio.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
You too.